Before we start into this presentation, let me ask you this. How often has fear stopped you from executing a trade? How often has fear pushed you into making impulsive decisions that just didn't align with your strategy? Now, if you've ever been in either of those situations, it is very common. Now, as a trading psychology expert, I can tell you that fear is one of the most misunderstood aspects of trading. It's the most common emotion, and yet it's one of the most valuable emotions we experience if we know how to embrace it properly. Now, today, I want to help you see fear differently. Rather than seeing it as a real challenge, I want you to see this and recognizing it as almost a teacher, a guide that holds valuable insights about you, your mindset, and your habits. Now, when we fear something, we build up a wall of resistance. It's usually because we care deeply about the outcome. But caring isn't enough. Understanding is the real key. So let's move into this presentation. I hope you find great value. It's really going to help you in your trading journey. So one of the first steps to managing fear is to reframe how you view it. Fear doesn't mean you're weak, and it certainly doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. It means you care about your results and about becoming a better trader. Now, when you start to see fear as part of the process, as a signal to be acknowledged rather than avoided, everything changes. You'll find yourself less reactive and more centered. So, what is fear in trading? It's not just a reaction to risk or uncertainty, it's a mirror reflecting your mindset and your relationship to yourself and the markets. And when you learn to embrace it, when you learn or lean into it instead of resisting it, you'll discover that fear can actually become one of your greatest assets in trading. Now, fear is the most powerful emotion traders face, and it has a profound effect or impact on trading. But here's the thing. Fear doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's always triggered by something deeper. Now, for most traders, fear is rooted in uncertainty or loss of capital. We know that markets are uncertain by nature, and as humans, we crave certainty. We want to know that our trades will work out, that analysis is correct, and that our efforts will be rewarded. But trading doesn't offer those guarantees. Now, we know this rationally. And when faced with that reality, fear can creep in, whispering doubts about what ifs that lead to hesitation and emotional decision making. Now, one of the most common ways fear affects traders is through hesitation. You've done your analysis, your trading plan's good, you're about to press a button, but fear comes in. What if I'm wrong? What if the market turns against me? That split second of hesitation is going to stop you from entering a trade altogether or at the wrong timing. So over time, this hesitation builds into frustration and self-doubt, and this affects confidence. So can you see the cycle here of how it works? Now, on the other hand, fear also shows up as impulsiveness. This kind that leads to jumping into trades too quickly or holding on to positions longer than you should trading. Now, fear brings up the fight, flight, and freeze response. Remember that, and we'll talk more about that going forward. So let's talk about FOMO specifically now, the fear of missing out, which is a classic example. When you see the market making a strong move, fear tells you, if I don't jump in now, I'm going to miss this really good opportunity. So you may abandon and let go of your rules and jump in too early or too late, only to watch the markets reverse shortly after. These emotional reactions don't just affect your results, they affect how you see yourself as a trader. Each time fear overrides your strategy, it simply chips away at your confidence and your trust in your own abilities. Again, can you see the cycle here? And when confidence falters, it becomes even harder to approach the markets with clarity and discipline. Hesitation reinforces. You start to self-doubt even more. But fear doesn't just stop there. It also impacts your mental energy and focus. Now, trading under the weight of fear can feel exhausting. Constantly worrying about losses, second-guessing yourself, it drains your mental capacity. This makes it harder to stick to your plan and think clearly. But here's the good news. Fear is not the enemy here. When you learn to understand it, fear becomes a signal rather than self-sabotage. It's your mind's way of saying, pay attention, something's not right here. So this is where the work begins. Rather than letting fear dictate your actions, start by exploring what's really triggering this. Are you afraid of losing money? Are you afraid of not being good enough, of never succeeding? When you identify the root cause behind this fear, you take steps to address it directly. Now, for example, if fear of loss is holding you back, focus on refining your risk management. Work out your belief system around money and success. Knowing exactly how much you're willing to risk on any given trade will give you the confidence to execute more without hesitation. Now, if FOMO is your struggle, remind yourself that the market's always going to provide new opportunities. Missing one trade isn't the end of your journey. It's just one moment in a big picture. Most importantly, be patient with yourself, because fear is a natural part of trading, and it's something even the most successful traders experience. The difference is how they respond to it. Now, when you shift your perspective from fear or fearing fear itself to seeing it as a tool for growth, you'll notice a massive shift in your mindset and approach. Fear doesn't have to define you as a trader. In fact, when you learn to embrace it, fear becomes the very thing that propels you forward to success. So I want to dive deeper into fear and what the fight, flight, freeze response is, because this is really important for you all to understand as traders. Now, have you ever wondered, say in the heat of a trading moment, your body seems to take over. It's very physical, like your heart's racing, your hands are clammy. This is fear, and it's the fight, flight, and freeze response. Your heart's racing, your hands are clammy, you can't focus. So this is a very primal reaction, which is hardwired into every single one of us, and it's designed to protect us from danger. Now, the problem is the markets aren't a physical threat, but your brain doesn't know that. When you trade, especially in these high pressure volatility moments, this uncertainty can really trigger that same survival instinct that would have helped our ancestors escape like a dinosaur and fend off danger. Now, let's break it down here. The fight response might show up as frustration or aggression in your trading. It's kind of like, the ego may come in. So perhaps you've experienced like a losing streak, and instead of stepping back to just take a moment to assess things, you feel that urge to win it back immediately. The ego comes in. You overtrade, you take bigger risks than usual, and you act impulsively. This is driven by a need to fight against the market to prove something to yourself and to the world. Then there's flight, the instinct to avoid the situation entirely. This could be the reason you hesitate to take a trade even when your analysis is really good. You might find yourself second guessing yourself all of the time, looking for excuses to avoid the potential discomfort of being wrong or losing money. Now, in the moment, stepping away or doing nothing feels like this kind of safety, but it's fear in disguise. And finally, there's freeze. That feeling of paralysis when you're overwhelmed by fear or indecision. Now, I get traders saying to me as well, I just froze in the moment. I couldn't push the button. That is fear coming in. That is the freeze response. You're stuck. You're unable to act. Now, freeze can also manifest as inaction after a significant loss or a mistake, where the fear of repeating the pain and that mistake keeps you from moving forward. You are stuck in your comfort zone. Now, here's the thing. The fight, flight, freeze response isn't a reflection of who you are or a trader. It is your brain's way of trying to protect you from perceived harm. Now, as a trader, it's vital to recognize when this reaction is taking over, because it can stop you from trading with clarity and confidence, and it can stop you from being a long-term successful trader. Now, the question is, how do you manage it? Well, again, like everything, awareness is the first step, and it's key. I want you to start to notice the physical and emotional signs that these responses are being triggered. When they are. Is your heart racing? Are you feeling tense or agitated? When you become aware of these signs, you can begin to pause and take back control. Second, develop tools to regulate your state in the moment. What do I mean by this? Well, this might include deep breathing to calm your nervous system, or stepping away from the screen for a few minutes to reset. And finally, remind yourself that these reactions are normal. They don't define you. Now, with practice, you can train yourself to respond to situations with calm, even intentional action. So the fight, flight, freeze response doesn't have to control your life and trading. When you learn to recognize it and manage it, you move through it and you start to really see great shifts in your trading mindset and results. So let's get on to the really good stuff now, how to embrace fear in trading. Now, here's how embracing fear can completely and will completely transform your trading. Fear is something we all experience or at some point in our life, and especially traders, no matter how successful or experienced you are. Now, fear doesn't have to control or self-sabotage your performance. In fact, when approached in the right way, it becomes such a valuable guide for you. So, how do you embrace fear in trading? Let's talk about some practical, effective techniques that you can start using right away. First one is breath work, calming the body to calm the mind. Now, when fear comes in, one of the first things that happens is your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. This is a body's fight, flight, and freeze response kicking in, and it sends a signal to your brain that you're in danger. Now, the good news is that by simply changing your breathing, you change your state. You can begin to override this response and bring yourself back to a state of calm. Now, here's a simple breathwork technique you can use. Take a deep breath in through your nose for the count of 4. Hold your breath for 4 seconds. Then exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 6 or 8 seconds. Now, just repeat this cycle 4 or 5 times and notice how your body starts to relax. This isn't just about calming your nerves, it's about creating space for clearer thinking and better decision making. When your body is calm, your mind follows. So, mental calm. The power of visualization. So another way to embrace fear is to practice mental calmness by visualization techniques. Now close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself in a situation where fear typically arises in trading. Now it could be when the market goes against you, or it could be after you've had a loss. Instead of focusing on the fear, picture yourself handling that moment with complete confidence and ease. See yourself executing your plan calmly, regardless of what is going on in the market. Visualize yourself staying grounded. The more you practice this, the more your brain begins to associate these situations with calm instead of panic. It's a really powerful technique. Now, this technique isn't about pretending fear doesn't exist. It's about retraining your mind to respond differently when fear shows up. It's about breaking your state. When fear takes over, it can feel like you're trapped in a loop of negative thoughts and emotions. Remember, you are in control of you. Now, this is where breaking your state can come in. Breaking states means doing something physical or mental to snap yourself out of that fearful mindset. Stand up, stretch, even do star jumps. This is really effective to break that state. Alternatively, say something out loud that almost disrupts your thought pattern, like, I've got this. Fear is just a signal, I can handle it. Now, the goal is to interrupt the fear response before it spirals out of control. It gives it the opportunity, or gives you the opportunity, to reset and refocus. Now, fear is often amplified by the stories we tell ourselves, the what if scenarios, the self-doubt, and even the catastrophizing. Remember, you can change your thoughts. Now, to embrace fear, you need to challenge those negative thoughts and replace them with more positive ones. I want you to start identifying the specific thoughts that trigger the fear. For example, what if I lose a trade? Or what if I'm wrong? Then ask yourself, is this thought 100% true? What evidence do I have to support it? What evidence do I have to challenge this? Now, finally, reframe the thought into something more balanced and even empowering. For example, every trader experiences losses. It's part and parcel of trading. But what if you say to yourself, I manage my risk well. I trust in my plan. Losses are part and parcel of trading, and focusing on the bigger picture. Now, fear often feels overwhelming because it pulls your focus entirely into the present moment. You're consumed by immediate risk and threat. But one powerful way to embrace fear is to reconnect with your why, the bigger reason you're trading in the first place. Take a moment to remind yourself of your goals and your vision. When you shift your perspective from the short-term fear to long-term purpose, fear begins to lose its energy. It's no longer about that one trade or that one moment. It's about the bigger picture of the process. Finally, embracing fear means learning from it. When fear arises, don't avoid it. Don't pull up that wall of resistance. It's about often pointing to something valuable, a gap in a skill, a weakness in a strategy, or an area around your belief system. Now, instead of avoiding or suppressing fear, ask yourself, what is this fear trying to tell me? For example, if you're afraid of losing, it might be a sign that you need to review your belief system around money or look at your risk management. Now, by treating fear as your teacher, you can use it to identify opportunities for much growth, and you'll become a much stronger, resilient, successful trader. So breathwork, visualization, breaking your state, challenging your negative thoughts, and reconnecting with your why is really going to help you to learn how to embrace fear. So as we come to the end of the presentation today, I hope you've really enjoyed this. I hope you found value. It's really important to take these steps and these suggestions to help you to learn to embrace fear, to know and understand it's not your enemy. It's there to actually try and keep you safe. It comes in for a reason. And it's simply part of the journey as a trader. So take at least one of these techniques and tools to help to embrace fear and to really get yourself in a sense of power as opposed to disempowerment. Now, if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, please put in the comments below. Have a great week, and here's to embracing fear as a trader. See you next time.